But I want to be the old man that pulls together the young guys. So if I can, I want to be a magnet and pulling in creative young people from the art schools and get them started again, doing some of our old characters, but in new stories and so on, but new characters too.
Charles, aka Chuck Martin Jones, was born in Spokane, Washington on September 21st, 1912. He grew up in the Los Angeles, California area with his parents and 3 siblings. He is best known for his work as a director for Looney Tunes and the Merry Melodies, in which he was actively involved from 1933 to 1996. In 1962, he and producer Les Goldman founded the well-known animation studio SIB Tower 12 Productions, which in a few years' time was renamed MGM Animation and Visual Arts, where he worked on a variety of different cartoons. Later on, he started his own studio, which he named after himself, Chuck Jones Enterprises. Known as the father of contemporary animation, he was nominated for an Academy Award 8 times and won 3 of them.
I stand guilty before the world of directing over 300 cartoons in the last 50 or 60 years. Hopefully, this means you've forgiven me.
Chuck Jones is definitely seen as a legend, especially within the realm of animation fans. His animated shorts had a sort of charm about them that the others they didn't. He did something unique. He did something magical, in fact. A part of what made Jones so incredible was his ability to dust off pieces of media and bring them to life with a sort of comedy that can only be found in his pieces. Even his collection of Tom and Jerry shorts are extremely different from the traditional ones. His unique style would always shine through, regardless of the subject matter. Chuck was a true innovator of contemporary animation. This is something that everybody knows. Though, he also is a remixer of media as well. Some of his most memorable remix pieces are his Tom and Jerry shorts, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and What's Opera Doc. So today, let's sit back, relax, and take a look back at those 3 pieces that Chuck Jones made his own. Something I distinctly remember when growing up was watching Tom and Jerry almost constantly. I would pop in my Tom and Jerry Whiskers Away disc every night and just laugh and laugh at it. And of course always root for Tom, because why wouldn't you root for Tom? I remember as a young kid always becoming confused when the cartoon's art style would suddenly change so drastically. As a child, I always just assumed they were all done by the same people. I didn't know the names at this point in my life. Why would I? I was just a little kid after all. The art would change from the William Hanna and Joseph Barbera team style to the Chuck Jones style. The vibe of the cartoons also changed drastically as well. That's where the key distinction between Chuck's Tom and Jerry shorts and the original Hanna-Barbera shorts comes in. The comedic vibe. In the original cartoons done by the... Alright, let's just call them HB because it's just a tongue twister for me, I'm not sure why. So HB. In the original cartoons done by the HB team, it was always focused around the violence. It was a simple system. Tom and Jerry were put into a setting, Tom would create a plan to catch Jerry, Jerry would outsmart him, and Tom ends up as the butt of the joke. The original Tom and Jerry cartoons really used sound effects and slapstick humor to their advantage, and knew how to do it right. When Tom would hit something, he would hit it. You'd be able to feel it through the screen, and somehow it made us all laugh hysterically, and it still does. However, the Chuck Jones Tom and Jerry's cartoons were much more like the Looney Tunes cartoons, which of course makes sense considering Jones was a key director for Looney Tunes. There was still slapstick humor, but he made it more situational and more based on the facial expressions in the cartoons of the characters. Not necessarily the, fighting. It was very different. Like I said, even as a child I could recognize the difference between the original and the Chuck Jones cartoons. Somehow though, Jones remixed this classic cartoon, and despite how he changed it so much to fit his comedy, it worked. He simplified things in a very clever way. He wanted to try something new for everyone's favorite cat and mouse team. He wanted to see if they could withstand simply creating comedy from the looks on their faces, rather than beating each other senselessly to a pulp. Although I'm a huge Chuck Jones fan, he is my favorite cartoonist of all time after all, I will always have a preference for the original HB Tom and Jerry cartoons. With that being said though, Jones did in fact make a few of my favorite Tom and Jerry shorts. All in all, the remixed Tom and Jerry cartoons that Chuck Jones had made in the 60s were fantastic, and of course, went down as legends with him. Another piece of media that Jones had remixed was the classic Christmas tale, How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Perhaps in honor of Seuss, I should do something that suits. Maybe a rhyme or two. Something that will truly bring it all into view. No. Unfortunately, I'm not clever enough to rhyme on a constant basis, so I'll stick to my analysis. The Grinch tale is one that everyone knows. He's loved worldwide. I'm literally wearing Grinch pajamas as I write this, and then a different pair as I record this. Despite the cartoon's telling of the tale having the exact same wording as the storybook, with the narration being done by Boris Karloff, you can still see the classic Jones cartooning charm. It's given away in the comedic value of the special, especially within the facial expressions. I mean, just look at this. Who else could have made this? He made it his own. I mean, people just call it the Chuck Jones Grinch special. Of course, the story credit all goes to Seuss, but the TV's memorable expressions and actions go to Jones. Despite making the story his own, he stuck true to the actual message of the story. Unlike those other two Grinch adaptations, which that might be a story for another day. Chuck had found the happy medium in between, changed things up a bit down the comedy aisle, but not enough that it's not recognizable anymore, aside from the fact that it's called The Grinch in some way. The message of The Grinch is that Christmas can't simply come from a store. It truly does mean a little more, and that anyone who doesn't understand that will likely hate Christmas and probably just become a grump, just like Mr. Grinch here. It was meant to be an everyman story, and Jones understood that and worked with it, meaning that the character of the Grinch didn't get a backstory, because that then brings out a deeper character, meaning he can't simply represent anyone watching in the audience, which would lead people to think that they could never end up like him on Christmas if they don't have a backstory just like him. Jones shared the message in the best possible way, with the beautiful words of Seuss and that sweet serene smile of the Grinch that simply says everything's clear, that he understands the true meaning of Christmas. Some way or another, Chuck seems to be the only director of the Grinch films and specials to truly understand what made it so effective and meaningful despite being a small little children's book, and made it his mission to stay true to those values. But he also did add his own mix of comedy and, as I like to put, Jones to it. I like to think that it's because Chuck's shoes aren't too tight and that his head is screwed on just right. What's Opera Doc is a classic Looney Tunes cartoon produced by Warner Bros. And directed by Chuck Jones in 1957. It's a parody of... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which translates to the Ring Cycle from 1874. It's a music drama consisting of 4 German language epics revolving around in a cycle. The drama is composed by Richard Wagner, and the lyrics are by Wagner as well. Chuck was a fan of Wagner and decided it would be fun to remix the Ring Cycle into a Looney Tunes cartoon with 2 of the most memorable characters, Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. In the cartoon, Elmer is out hunting wabbits again, and of course singing Gilda Wabbit over and over again. And yet somehow it just doesn't get old. Their normal shtick is the starting point, but at some point it just turns into an intense opera about love and loss. They sing, they dance, and you love it. You just can't help loving it. The cartoon runs for about 6 to 7 minutes and somehow envelops the entire cycle of the music drama. There's love, anger, bliss, and death. All in all, it is pretty epic. It's my personal favorite Looney Tunes cartoon for the simple fact that it's, like I just said, epic. It's also a little out there and it's, I don't know, just the drama of it is so funny to me. Chuck introduced a generation of children to Wagner's amazing music and did it in such a way that will never be forgotten. Chuck's natural gift for remixing media really shines through in this one. It's very different and yet still utilizes the music of Wagner just as well as the Ring Cycle did. In this, his sense of comedy can come out, but so can his intellect. Jones knew exactly what to do and how to do it. He knew exactly how to get a crowd of fans going, but he also knew when to stop when the piece started to get a bit too far out there. This man had a true gift, one that the world has been missing ever since his passing on February 22nd, 2002, in Newport Beach, California. Despite his physical form being gone, his memory will always stay with us. Chuck was a true visionary, one that will forever live on in the books and our hearts, as a legend, no matter what happens in the world of cartooning.